All right, so there's a couple of announcements to go before we get started here. Okay, so just give me a second, and I want to customize my Chromebook again. Sorry. Okay. All right. So, just real quick, I'm going to put this on whiteboard for a minute. All right. So let's put that front and center. Okay. All right. So next week, and we kind of talked about this a little bit last week. Next week is redo week. Okay. So for redo week, it's exactly what it sounds like. You're going to get more cracks at stuff that you've already turned in. So how's it going to work? Okay, so redo week. Not used to writing on the whiteboard. Just clear this off and start again. That is terrible. All right, so redo week rules. Okay. All right. So, first off, number one. Hey, Jackie. All right, so for redo week, everything from the conversion tab 1 to the finance test can be redone. All right, so you might want to jot this down in your notes, or if you have a planner or a calendar. What I always did when I was in high school was I would always cover the outside of my textbook with a brown paper bag and then just write important dates on the back of it. That way it's just one less thing to carry around. So that means that whatever you redid, whatever you skunked in that range, you can redo. Now, that being said, late credit is still late credit. Okay? Remember, if you turn it in late, that's just an automatic 20 points off the top. Then I grade it. Now, some of those grades I haven't put in yet. So I will try to get that done tomorrow to get everybody's grades updated where they need to be. Secondly, got lunch stuck in my throat. After off tray, my brain just does that sometimes. I don't know what's going on. After midnight on October 13th, which I believe is a Friday. I'm sure nothing bad is going to happen that day. Well, there's one good thing. All right, so after that day, at that time, the grades for those assignments are locked. For the year. Oops. Which means that after Friday of next week, nobody needs to be sending me any messages saying, hey, can I go back and redo, anything from that range, because they're done. Okay? They're old. They need to stay that way. And that includes even if it's a 0 on an answer entry. Answer. I don't like the way that looks. Get me right. Sure, I'm looking right there. So if it's a 0 on an answer entry, or an incomplete work entry. Okay, so let's say that you just missed a deadline, okay, and I zeroed it out because you missed it. Well, so if that happened, that means it's a late grade. I'll let you redo it, but I'm still taking that 20 off as a reminder. But, so like say if you had a 0 on an assignment and you didn't get it turned in by October 13th, that is what's called too bad. All right, it is going to stay a 0 in perpetuity. Okay, now if you're currently, very much aware of what your grade is, let's say student A has not done a single work entry all year long. Okay, so student A hasn't done a single work entry all year long, but they've done well on the answer entries. Student B has also done well on the answer entries, but has also turned in every single work entry the way they're supposed to. So right now, who's got more points? B, right. And it's not that student A is doing anything wrong, except they're not doing all their work. And again, it is optional to a point. You got to do most of it. You don't have to do all of them. Okay? Because I pointed out in the syllabus, if you don't do any of the work entries, you will fail. You have to do at least majority of them. Okay? I would say I wouldn't probably miss more than 4. All right? Which most everybody's doing a pretty good job keeping up with that. But every week when I grade them, I can see that there are less work entries than there are answer entries. And that's going to catch up to those folks eventually. So hopefully that doesn't happen in those classes. All right. Number 3, if you want to redo one of these things, you have to message me in Moodle. This thing's hard to write on. I don't know what that was supposed to say. Moodle. And ask for a redo specifically. Okay? Ask for a redo. Jeez Louise. It's like my brain doesn't understand what I'm trying to do up here. On which specific assignment you want / need redone. Okay? They don't happen automatically. Like say, let me finish my thought here. I don't want to draw on the board. Okay. The reason why I don't just go in here and reopen it for everybody, because then someone that did not want to redo that is going to have them. Okay, and I don't want that to happen. Especially if you're in the you're in the group that is doing okay, doesn't need anything redone. Okay, most everybody's got like 1 or 2 though. That's like, I could probably do a little bit better on that one. But anyway, so what you got to do is like, let's say if let's see. Who have I not made an example out of lately? That sounded bad. All right, let's say that Emma sends me a message that says, hey, I want to do the conversions lab. Is that going to get her anywhere? No. For a couple of reasons. One, how many conversions labs were there? 2 of them. And how many parts does each lab have? 2. Work and answer, right? Well, except for some of the finance stuff, it doesn't, like the finance test doesn't have a work entry, but we'll talk about that in a minute. But yeah, so if Emma wants to redo something, she says to me, hey, I need to redo Conversions Lab 1's work entry, or Conversions Lab 2's answer entry, or both parts on Conversion Lab 2. All right, you have to be specific online, folks, because if you just say, hey, I need to do the percent section, you're not going to see anything open up because I don't know what you want and I'm not chasing you down. You've got to tell me exactly what you want opened up. It's also how I keep track of who's asked for one, because I can search my Moodle messages. It's like if Ian sends me one that says I need to do the answer entry on percent lab 2, great. I can go ahead and pop that in. Then when I do my final grades, like, oh, Ian had a redo on this, so I'll go put it in there. Okay, so just be specific with what you want. Okay. All right, let's shift our focus to what's coming up in the next couple of days. All right, let me zoom this in for the online folks. Okay, so up at the top of the board here, these 4 things are open right now. Okay, the percent test and the Finance Lab 1 close tomorrow. If you've not got those done, that needs to be at the very top of your list, just like it is here. Okay, if you've still not completed those, get that in. The Finance Lab 2 and the Finance Test, they both open today. Like I said, we're a little bit ahead of schedule because I'm trying to get a good benchmark completed before fall break starts. Okay, so yeah, I mean, technically the way I originally had it was that we weren't even starting Finance Lab 2 until after fall break. So we're a little bit ahead. So if we get it at pace, then after fall break we should be like right on time, or maybe just even still a week ahead. But so, if you need to write this down to make yourself a checklist, that sounds like a pretty good idea to me. If just telling the wall in case it wants to hear me. But percent test, you need to get that done first. Second, Finance Lab 1, get that done. They're both due tomorrow. Then Finance Lab 2 and the Finance Test are both open. 8 questions on Finance Lab 2, 10 questions on the Finance Test. This looks like a lot, but really the biggest one is Finance Lab 1. All right, and it's just the matching part. So just, you got a lot of stuff opened up. It's really going to be more work for me grading it all, but, is what it is. Okay, upcoming schedule. So for today's section and tomorrow's sections, we're going to be looking at the Finance Test review. All right, so we're just going to kind of walk back through everything with getting ready for the Finance Test and show you what it looks like, and then send you on your merry way. Different sections meeting those days. On the 4th and the 5th, we're going to be doing a FMQ section, a frequently missed questions section. So what it is for you guys, it'll be specifically which questions have been the most missed among your assignments. Now, I can't really do this individually for every class, but I will say there's common themes. If 3 in-person classes all missed, this question on this lab, there's a good chance that the online classes did too, because you're all doing the same assignments, right? So, every assignment generates a report for me, and it says, hey, whoa, everybody skunked on this question. So then we're going to go over those and see what happened. All right, and it'll be a good little study tool for you to add to your notes when you get ready to take your final. Monday of next week, the 9th. That's the start of the redo week. Okay, so, for my Andrews class, they must meet. They have no choice. It's a high school class. They've got to meet. For you guys, though, what I'm going to do is I'm going to say, if you need to come in here and work on some stuff and get some stuff done, maybe you don't have good internet at home, or maybe you don't really have much time, you can come in here. I'll be here, and you can come in and get some work done. You can work on some stuff that you need another shot at. Okay, and then on 10-10, it's going to be that same way for that section there. And then on the 11th to the 13th, we're not here. Fall break. Okay? I'm not going to be here, so you're not going to be here. But just remember, midnight on the 13th, if I don't have it, you don't have it for the rest of the year. Okay? Online folks, make sure that you know that too. And then on Monday the 16th, we're going to be picking back up with our normal stuff. And, all right. So, you know, if you keep a schedule, go ahead and throw that in there. I know not everybody does. Or if you need to take a picture of it, whatever you need to do, it'll be on this recording, so you can have it that way too. How do you switch? Oh, glass. Nope, don't save. Okay. All right. So let's real quick walk back through our two finance labs, make sure that we know where everything's at. You know, like we said, this is primarily the technological type lesson. You know, we've got the spreadsheets, we've got the websites and things. So we're just going to kind of walk you through that again. Just make sure you know where everything's at. Okay. All right. So, starting with Finance Lab 1. All right. So, on the student copy, we talked about the two things that we were going to look at and why we use the financial calculator over the formulas themselves, because financial calculator is actually easier to use. So we'll let it open. You can see how many times I've downloaded it, not realizing that I actually had it. Okay. So for Finance Lab 1, remember that we stayed here. Nope, that's not the right spot. Right here. We stayed here on loan payment. And we talked about how you can use this to figure up your monthly payment. We haven't looked at any websites for buying a house yet, and we're going to do that at the end of this, just so you can see how they're different, okay? But again, this is just for the payment itself. This does not bring in taxes, insurance, escrow fees, stuff like that. We'll see that on some of the websites, because they actually do have a place to account for that. But the way this worked was, let's say if you're going to buy a house at, let's say, $324,000, that's $3,200,000. It's too much. All right. So then the loan itself is going to be 30 years, and we'll just leave that interest rate there because that's a pretty normal one. So, $324,000, you're looking at $1,641.66. Now, the home buyer websites tend to round to the nearest dollar, just like Auto Trader did. Remember on Auto Trader when we looked at Finance Lab 2 for buying a car, and it would round up to the nearest dollar? They'll do that, but you got to make sure that you have enough covered, because let's say if you didn't know how to round, all right, and you just paid $16.41 every month, that extra 66 cents is going to be added to your overdue balance or your interest, or they'll get it somewhere. Okay, so just make sure that you're having enough taken out. So for Finance Lab 1, you had 16 different scenarios that you had to figure up, because you were buying a $100,000 house and you're looking at increments of, I think it was 15, 20, 25, and 30 years, right? And then there were also different interest rates, 4, 5, 6, and 7%. So you had to find your monthly payment, and then you had to use the total interest formula to get how much interest there was, right? So then once you did that, when you went to do Finance Lab 1, remember your work entry was where you had printed it out and wrote it in, right? Not typed it in. Don't type it in. If you type it in, I'm not going to take it. But if you print it out and write it in, you're good. And kind of seeing a little dirty laundry here. Not everybody turned this one in yet. Anyway, so when you go to turn this one in, when you open it up, it should pull up a different combination of a question order for each person. So what you do is once you've got your table complete, you start answering these questions. All right, so I need to fill out my table. All right, so the first thing it's looking for is 20 years at 4%. So then you pull up this big list. You need to go through it very carefully to look and see which one has the correct payment and interest on it. I will say the way it's set up, if you can find the right payment, the correct interest should be right there with it. All right, or if you would rather look for the interest because it's a bigger number and it's easier to see. But I wish I could say that there was a way to not mess this up. This is actually really easy to mess up. So you need to be very meticulous about the answer choices that you put in. Okay? I will say most of the time in the spring, when people missed one of these, it's because they had picked an option that they had already picked on another answer. And I don't know how to set this up to where it will not do that. But also, I don't want it to eliminate choices, because then by the time you get all the way down here, it's like, oh, well, this is what it's got to be. So, you know, sneaky, sneaky. So just be very, very careful, okay? That's all I can tell you with that. Fill in your table. Use it to fill in your answer entry. Be very careful. Okay. So then we had Finance Lab 2. I don't know why that video for Finance Lab 1 is all the way down there at the bottom, but I need to fix that. I did not realize that that was where it had put it. Just a moment. Gotta love Moodle, even if it doesn't love us. All right, so Finance Lab 2, you're trading a car, all right? You're looking at different car trading situations, okay? So we went into Auto Trader's loan payment calculator, all right? And then from there, that was where we put our information in, okay? Once it loads. Did anybody go away? Did anybody have any trouble getting Auto Trader to work on your computers? Okay. I did have a student up at Andrews that has a MacBook, but she didn't have any trouble. So that's good. Maybe there's an update that fixed it. Because that was where the problem was. It wouldn't work on MacBook. It wouldn't even let you type anything in these values. Very strange. Also, did anybody, if anybody has a MacBook, did you have any trouble getting the financial calculator to open? I had a message that said someone was trying to get it to open up on a MacBook and it wanted a password to unlock it. I don't know if that must be a MacBook thing, because I didn't put a password on it. I mean, y'all saw it. It just pops right up. So, it just, I don't know. Anytime you are having trouble getting something to open and I can't figure it out, contact Carissa Cornwell at the Student Computer Help Center, and she can either help you or at least point you in the right direction. I will say, though, Chi-County primarily uses Microsoft products. Microsoft, Google, we stick with the mothership. All right, so on this one, you had to put in your car price. So like, say if you were just trying to figure out how much that you were going to have to pay on a new car. So is anybody, I think we asked this last week, was anybody looking at buying a new car in here? No? Okay. Well, for the early college class, we asked them, how much was your dream car? And somebody said like $125,000. Like, let's dial that down a little bit. Just a little bit. Let's get something a little bit more attainable. Let's say it's $40,000. Maybe it's like a big SUV or something. Okay, interest rate, let's say that you got a good, it's like a, I don't know, year-end closeout, something like that. So the interest is all the way down to like 2.5%. Right? You're going to stretch it out for 6 years. We don't have any problems pertaining with sales tax, so we're going to leave that blank. Now, of course, obviously, when you go to buy the car, they will tax it. But we're not going to do that right here. We also didn't have any problems involving a down payment, but I will show you what happens. So watch over here, okay? It shows you where everything goes over here on this side. So like, let's say, okay, $40,000 car, I've saved up $7,500 for a down payment. Down payment gets subtracted from the principal. So now, instead of financing $40,000, you're financing $32,500. So that's how you apply that. Okay, and it's it's basically the same as a rebate, because what did a rebate come off of? Came off the car price, right? Now, if you manage to get a rebate and a down payment, that'll knock a good dent in it, won't it? But let's say you had a trade-in value of, I don't know, we'll be generous and say $10,000. Now, this part was the only one that you had to use the financial calculator on, right? Your amount owed on trade. The amount owed on trade, you have to go to the financial calculator and you have to scooch over to where it says loan payoff. How much do you still owe? All right. So then you would put your current vehicle in here. So let's say that you're paying about, let's say $550 a month. You've got 3 years left on it. So how many payments is that going to be? 36. 3 times 12, good. And let's say that's still your current interest rate. So you've still got $18,489.31 left on it. All right. So let's pop that in there. 18,489.31. Okay. So see where everything goes. Now we know that the down payment came off of it, right? Trade-in value comes off of it. Amount owed on trade gets added back. Okay? You have to incorporate your, that's what kind of stinks about trading a car in. You're still paying on the one that you're not even driving anymore because you got to pay that loan off, right? Well, it's just like, if you follow baseball, the Mets this year. They've spent big money on Max Scherzer and Justin Verlander. By the end of the season, they had traded them both away. But they were still paying them. So they were paying them to not be on their team. Messed up. I know. But same idea, right? You're paying extra for a car that you don't drive anymore. So the best thing, really, common sense-wise, is, unless it's just an absolute dud that keeps tearing up all the time, pay it off, then trade. Now, are you going to get as much on trade in? No, probably not. But you'll have peace of mind of, oh, I'm driving my new car, but I'm not paying for my old car either. Okay? All right. Did anybody have any trouble using AutoTrader? I think y'all already answered that question. Okay, so let's look at a couple of other websites for things like this. All right, so if I go to Google and I type in mortgage calculator, all right, lo and behold, Google has one of their own. And like they have a little widget here that's already ready for you. So if we go back to that other information, so if we have $324,000, 30-year fixed, and what did we say our interest was? 4.5. 1642, 1641.66. So, it rounded it up, right? Now, we had mentioned that there were other websites that had extra pieces factored in. So, like if you go to mortgagecalculator.org, it'll give you a graph at the top, okay? So the gray, or which it may not even be gray, sorry. Colorblind, I don't even know why. I assumed what color it was. The taxes and fees are across the top. This is your interest, okay? And see how, you've got to pay on it for a good long while until you're actually paying more principal than you are interest, okay? That's the way it goes, unfortunately. All right? So let's put our information back in here. So 324,000. We're not going to make a down payment, so we're just going to leave that at 0. Then our interest rate was 4.5. So if you hit enter, it'll figure it up for you. And it came up all these different variables in it. Now, the reason why this is higher is because there's some stuff that we didn't take out. Okay? They have already figured up your property tax, your PMI, I don't remember what that is, principal minus interest. That doesn't sound right. Then your homeowner's insurance, which you definitely want to have homeowner's insurance, especially if you live in New York right now. I mean, half of them houses are underwater. HOA, try to avoid those if at all possible, which I know someone's going to be watching this video and be like, oh, he's bad-mouthing HOAs. Yes, he is. Because, is anybody part of an HOA right now? Anybody know what that is? Yeah, homeowners association. So it's like everybody got together and said, hey, you know, if you'll give us like an extra $50 a month, you know, we'll make sure the roads are maintained, we'll make sure the grass is cut off the sidewalks and stuff like that, which that's how they sell it to you. But then it's like, oh, you've not cut your grass this week. Might want to get on that. You think I'm lying? I am not lying. In my old house, my driveway was separate from this driveway to a community up the hill. And the person over that HOA tried to get road maintenance fees from me. I was like, dude, I don't use y'all's driveway. I'm not paying that. And they're like, but your house is right there. Like, my neighbor's house. He does use y'all's road. I got my own road. I'm not paying to keep that road maintained. Don't even use it. So, yeah. Now, of course, if you're in a gated community, there's not really any way to avoid that because that's just how they are. But hopefully, if you have them, they're not too bad. But, you know, just, you know, and, you know, sometimes it might help out. You know, if there's a tree that needs cut down because it's going to be falling over a power line, you know, they can help you get on that or whatever. But just be wary of those things because they're kind of, you know, a lot of times they have those to make sure that the neighborhood looks good, not just, you know, any one house in particular. Bank rate's a pretty good one. I mentioned that one in the notes. So if you put all your information back over here again, so 324, we're not going to do a down payment, but it tells you right here, so hey, if you want to pay 20% down, here's what you'll need to bring. Okay? Not always feasible. You know, may not always have that kind of money laying around. We're going to do 30 years still. We're going to do, just keep it generic again, 4.5. Okay. Now look, see, it says 1920. Again, because it's adding in stuff that you need. Property tax, homeowner's insurance, okay? Now none of the stuff that we did has that stuff factored in. But in the real world, when you go to buy a house, these things come in to play. And if you open up an escrow account through your lender for this, you have so much going in there too. But that stuff's actually helpful because the escrow will pay off your property tax for you every year. And like anything else that comes up, like your homeowner's insurance and things like that. So not terrible. So that's just, you know, if you are considering buying your own place here in the next little while, definitely make sure that you want to use a mortgage calculator, preferably if, you know, if the lender that you're looking at going through has an online mortgage calculator, I would use theirs. That way you kind of know exactly where you're at. Okay? So the test. Let's go look at the test. Come on. Didn't realize how far down the rabbit hole we went. Waiting for moodle.tricountycc.edu. Isn't that the way of it? Went back too far. So, finance test should be open. Tells you when it's due. Again, this is at the bottom of your list. Don't worry about this yet. You got to finish the percent test first. And it tells you, it doesn't tell you up here because I've not updated it yet, but it tells you on the finance test. Since there's so many digital tools that we've covered, there is no work entry for this. Okay? It's all answer entry, but look how much the answer entry is. Work entry credit has been folded into the test, or folded into the answer entry, sorry. Okay? So when you go to look at it, you're going to see questions similar to what was on the lab. So, for instance, find a monthly payment for a loan of $50,000 at 7.5 APR for 6 years. You can use a financial calculator. You can use the one online. But just remember, when you're doing one online, clear out the property tax, clear out the insurance, clear out the HOA fees, clear out everything, clear out the tax, clear out everything that is not principal, rate, and time. That's the only things you need. Don't put a down payment. Don't, just those three things. Anything else is going to cause your answer to skew too far, one way or another. So if you're worried about that, then your best bet is just using the spreadsheet. Okay? All right. And then you're also going to have questions like this. All right, similar to the car questions. Okay? It's just going to be different numbers. All right? They should scramble every time you pull it up. Now, one thing we talked about last week that I want to remind everybody about with Finance Lab 2, because somebody in the morning section at Andrews asked a really good question about this. And I just want to make sure everybody's clear. All right. This might open by the time I'm 100 years old. Okay. On the Critical Thinking Lab 4 worksheet, or student copy, whichever you want to call it, it says up here at the top, note, if you use an online calculator, you must provide screenshots of what you entered into the calculator for each question in order to receive credit for work shown. What is AutoTrader's tool? An online calculator, right? So in other words, for your work, you don't have to write on this and upload it, okay? Just send me screenshots of what you typed into AutoTrader for each question, okay? And then because what happened in the spring was folks would, they would answer and be like, I don't understand why I missed this. And then I'd pull up their screenshot and they hadn't put in the remaining balance on their car. They hadn't used the loan payoff formula, okay? Now, I don't need to see anything that's in the spreadsheet financial calculator, just whatever online calculator that you use, whether it's AutoTrader or something else. Okay, I don't know if Carvana has one or anywhere else, but the AutoTrader one works the best from what I've seen. Okay, so yeah, just make sure that that's what you upload for this. Should be easy peasy, right? Any questions? Okay. Should anybody be working on the finance test this week? Not until they do the other three things. Correct? Correct. All right. I will have those frequently missed questions ready for you on Wednesday, and we're going to go through those. Enjoy the rest of your day.